Hello YouTube, Dave here again. Today I'm going to be unboxing the Starfinder 2nd Edition Murder in Metal City Deluxe Adventure. So this was sent to me by Paizo for the purposes of doing some videos on, so I want to thank them for that. However, as is always the case with these types of videos, they are not scripting or pre-screening the videos, and the opinions that I express are 100% completely and totally my own. So this is actually kind of an interesting product that's come from Paizo here, because this released alongside of the Starfinder player core, and this is sort of what you would expect to be like a starter set, and for all intents and purposes it is, except it's missing one key component of the starter sets. We'll take a look here and see what we got on the back. So we'll start with the retail price here. This is $39.99 US. And inside you get a 64-page book with an adventure for first-level characters, plus detailed articles about the planet of Abalon, the city of striving, the tech face of Abalon, and creatures and characters in the adventure. 6 pre-generated characters, a reference sheet for the GM, a 2-sided combat flip mat, combat tokens for the player, characters as well as dozens of foes, 20 investigation cards, and 24 cards with NPCs and gear. So this has a lot of the components of a starter set, but it is missing a rule booklet. So you actually need to have a copy of the core rules, or at the very least, a copy of the playtest rules. But as time goes on, obviously the actual published final version of the game will be the one to go with, but you do need to supply your own rule booklet or rule book to run this scenario. So it's a starter set in pretty much everything except for that regard. So let's go ahead and take a look here. Now, $39.99 does sound like a lot, but there are a few things to consider. The tokens, for example, as well as the double-sided poster map, they are the same quality, or should be the same quality, as their flip mats that you can purchase, and they range from $15 to $20 US alone themselves. So that's nearly half of the value just with the flip mat. And you throw on top of that the tokens, and that covers a pretty significant amount. And then you've got the 64-page adventure book, which again you could sell those for 15 to 20 as well. So it's as far as the value goes, I think you're going to be okay. You got the cards for the handouts and stuff as well, so I think it does a good job of justifying based off of what it's saying is included. But we'll take a look and make sure here. So let me just get this opened up. And again, this isn't going to be a review of the adventure. As you can see, I am opening this for the first time right now, so I haven't had a chance to read through the adventure or anything. The unfortunate thing is that this won't be able to appear on my Starter Set Saturday series, because one of the rules that I have for a starter set is that it has to have at least a partial version of the rules included to be played out of the box without the need of anything else. So it's not going to pass that test, unfortunately, but I am still curious to see kind of what we got here. And number one, the box does feel nice and sturdy, nice and solid, nice thick cardstock. It does have that glossy finish to it as well. So I would say the quality is quite good on this. And we'll just get it to slide open here. Usually the first time opening these can be the most trying, but there we go. Okay, we got our cards here. They're actually nice and big too. They're a bit more like traditional paper stock than the card stock that you might find for some of their accessories, but they are nice and big and easy to read, so I will definitely give them credit there. And then the tokens. So this is actually kind of cool. The tokens are meant to be flat. Oh, okay. All right, there is one thing that I will say that will lower this a little bit for me, but overall I think it's still going to be fine. But yeah, there's the tokens. Now the map. The map I was fully expecting to be the glossy poster or the glossy flip mat material, but this is not that. but it is nice. It is a nice thick paper stock. And we have both sides there. So this is more of like what you would traditionally find as a matte material in these. So not quite the $15 to $20 value that you would get with a normal, like the flip mat with the actual like ability to use dry or wet erase markers on. But it is still a nice map as well. So I was really expecting it to be the other material, though, because all the other Paizo box sets that I've ever owned have used the same material for their flip mats in the scenario boxes or the beginner boxes as they did with the ones that you can buy retail. So a little bit of a disappointment there, but it is a beautiful map, and you know it's for important adventure locations, so it's not like you necessarily need the markers there. And truthfully, this material, to try to put a bright side spin on things, this type of material will likely sit flatter on your table than the other flip mats that you kind of need to weigh down and smooth out a little bit for a while before it actually will sit flat on the table. So I guess it's a compromise, but there we go. Oh, and we got some other handouts included here. So these are like magazine paper stock. And they got the stuff there. Okay. All right. And again, you're going to be mass producing these. So, and I've said this before, if you can mass produce something, if you can save pennies during the processing, production side of things, if you're releasing like 1 million of these, then you can save a pretty decent amount of money overall. But I mean, they're still very functional. And then we've got our player character profiles. So we got the different player character names. This might actually be kind of useful to have, actually. Just in general, because you've got what their class is, what their background is, their languages, their senses. You could put notes in there for things like their different skills or abilities that you might need to use for flat checks or secret checks, I should say, as the game master. So that's actually kind of neat to have there. And then we've got our player characters. And this is meant to be like an investigation type of scenario. So this isn't necessarily like your run and gun or, like your hack and slash type of scenario. And having recently been running the Blade Runner game, it makes me more wanting to run this scenario to see how, a more traditional, like combat-oriented RPG can handle an investigation side of things. But yeah, I mean, that looks pretty good. So we got the character sheet on the one side there. Oh, okay. So you got kind of like their stats that you'd find for like pre-gen characters online. So this is kind of like the stat block for like what you would see if you were using them as an opponent. But then they've actually got their character sheet on the other side there. So that is really cool. So we've got an android mystic. We have a Yoski or Soki. I don't know if you pronounce the Y or not. And again, it's a made-up fantasy name or term, so I don't know what the consensus is on that. I've always called them Yoskis, but let me know. But yeah, we got the Witch Warper there on the other side, and I do like the fact that they make it look like it's been written in by somebody. And then we've got a Kaiser soldier, so a plant. It looks like a plant person, so that's pretty cool. And then we've got a Vesk Solarian. Looks like we actually have one of every character here. And then we've got the Skittermander Envoy, because of course... Oh, we got another character in there too. So we got a Skittermander Envoy. And yeah, we've got an operative. So we have one of every class in here. So that's actually kind of cool that they've actually made one of each of the player core classes. They've made a character for. So that's kind of neat. And then we've got our adventure booklet. And then we have my old friend, Mr. Cardboard Filler. So that takes up a pretty significant chunk of the box. However, let's see if I can get this out of here, because I think what can be handy for this so I got that out. We'll see what happens at the end here, but I think there's a good reason for that being there, because we don't have the rule book. I'm assuming that you can fit the player core in there with all these other things. But we got the murder in Metal City, and again, I don't want to spoil too much here. But we've got some different creatures there. So this takes place on was it Abalon? I think is the name of the location of the planet this takes place on. And Abalon is I think it's the closest or second closest planet to the sun in the Pact World system. So it is inhabited primarily by machines, robotic or like android characters. So it's not that you can't be there as a regular, flesh and blood creature, but it's just not the predominant type of. It's just not the predominant type of beings that live there. So again, like you take a look at the city map there, and it very much looks like a microchip. So I think that's actually a pretty cool detail. And then on the back, we've got the GM reference here. So there you go. Again, this isn't a review of the adventure or anything like that yet. So the pros and cons. It does include each of the character classes, which is great. It also comes with a really cool character. Oh, there's something on the back of that sheet too. Hold on. There's a spot for. Okay, this is actually a really cool sheet. Because there's a spot for important NPCs, for tracking evidence, for other notes that you may put on, the treasure that's found, XP tracker, how much experience points they've earned in each of the chapters there. So that's a really cool addition there. I will say I do wish that the paper stock on these character sheets and on this tracker sheet was a little bit thicker. It is like the standard kind of like magazine paper from like the Dungeon magazine days, and it's not bad by any stretch of the imagination, but it would have been nice if it had just a little bit more sturdiness behind it here. And I think the same thing's going to go for these handouts in particular, because they are quite flimsy, so you're going to have to be careful with these, because you don't want them to get like folded up or creased or damaged. So again, if these were a bit of a sturdier cardstock, I think that would have been a lot nicer on the consumer side of things. For example, like these here, like these are these are quite a bit thicker, and they're not as flimsy or fragile feeling. So if these handouts could have been made out of this material, then I think that would have been absolutely fantastic. So we've got those there. We've got our handouts. Again, I'm not going to go through all these because they may involve spoilers for the scenario. I do really like the inclusion of the tokens, and unlike the traditional pawns, you don't have to worry about getting these to sit in the stands. You can just put them flat on the map, and I actually play at my kitchen table, so everybody can see everything perfectly fine. So these tokens, I think, will work perfectly fine for that. And you do get a decent assortment of things here. You get the player characters, and then you get quite a few copies of some like creatures that you may come across. So I think that's done really, really well, and they're the same on both sides. And they are a nice, glossy, sturdy material. The map, again, I was expecting it to be the same as the retail flip mats, but it is still a very, good-looking double-sided map. I think the design is really, really good on it, and the paper material that it's made of, while I wish it was the thicker stuff that you could use markers on if you had to, I will say these types of maps generally give you less grief at the table trying to get them to lay flat. So we do have those things sort of going for it. I do feel like this is a bit of a step backwards from their beginner boxes, if I'm going to be completely and totally honest. But that's not to say that I think this is a bad product. I just think, obviously things are getting more expensive. So as things get more expensive, companies have to find ways to, be able to still put out, products, but at the same time kind of need to, save enough money that they can still make these and, have them make money for them. So I understand, kind of why some of these choices were made. It is definitely different opening a Paizo box set and finding a big giant, space holder in there, and then just a regular poster map and some like thin paper stock handouts. But I think overall this is still pretty decent quality for everything. You still get, a scenario that you could probably get a couple of play sessions out of, similar to like a lot of what the starter sets would be. The downside of you needing to buy the book is a bit on the rough side, but there is the online like reference document I think you can find for these. And if you have the playtest book, then you'd still be able to use those rules, and to be able to run the game. Or if you have like the Pathfinder books already, then I think you're going to be okay. They did say that this is not meant to replace an actual beginner box, and that we might see a true beginner box for Starfinder 2nd Edition come out sometime in the near future. So I do hope that is the case. But overall, I think that this is still going to be a fun time for you and your group at your gaming table. But now I want to see if this actually works the way I'm hoping it works. So we got our player core book. Nope, that does go in there. It's a tight fit. It's a tight fit, but you can get the book out. It will come out. So it does actually fit in there. That's good. And then we'll put those down, we'll put the map down, we'll put these down. Actually, I want these on top just so that I know where they are. And then we'll put our scenario. And then we'll just box it up. All right, so there you go. So everything does fit in there. You can get a full player core in there. If you are using the playtest rule booklet, it is a soft cover and is much thinner, so that will be probably an easier way of getting everything in there. But it does all fit in there, so if I wanted to take this somewhere to run it, I can fit everything inside of the box that I'm going to need for that, so that is great. Overall, I think this is still a pretty solid product. It did fall a little short of my expectations, but I will say that the previous beginner boxes have definitely set a pretty high standard for what I think a Paizo box would be. But if this was just any other company putting out this exact same product with the exact same materials included inside, I don't think I would be as harsh on them. So I don't want to hold it against Paizo. I will just say that my expectations were a little bit higher, but I still think overall, 64-page book adventure, you've got the tokens to use on the double-sided maps, which will sit pretty flat on the table, or will sit flatter than the folded, thicker, dry erase marker poster maps or flip mats. So you get the investigation stuff. I think this is still going to be a really good time. And for $40, if you can get a couple of play sessions out of that, at like 3 to 4 hours each. So if you can get like 6 to 8 hours of gameplay with a group of your friends and having a good time for $40, that's not the worst thing in the world. So I think this is still a good product. It just falls a little bit short of what I expect from a Paizo box set. But this isn't a beginner box, and I've only been able to look at other beginner boxes, so the real test will be if they do release a beginner box for Starfinder 2nd Edition, and we'll see what the materials are in there. But again, this day and age, inflation has kind of gone rampant, and I understand the need to sort of scale back and try to save some money on the production line, because while it may not seem significant to you or I, if you can save a few pennies on something mass-produced, those pennies definitely do add up. So you're still going to have a good time, I think, with this. And I will do a separate video reviewing the actual scenario, which is like the meat and potatoes of this box set. So let me know in the comments below, have you picked up Murder in Metal City the deluxe adventure or not. If you have, try to avoid any spoilers, but let me know if you guys had a great time with it. Just don't spoil any of the story elements. And yeah, I look forward to diving a little further into this. So once again, I want to thank Paizo for sending this my way. I do appreciate it, and I want to thank each and every one of you for taking time out of your day to watch this video. It does always mean the world to me. And then until next time, take care.